Today's video will feature massive spoilers from all of Armored Core 6's ending, so if you want to avoid spoilers, you've been warned. Armored Core 6 has 3 endings. The bad, where the coral gets burned, the good, where the coral gets saved, and the true ending, where the coral gets released. But what if I told you that everything is not black and white, and the coral release, the true ending, might be the worst case scenario? First, let's talk about the bad ending. So you learn later on in the story that Handler Walter's motivation is not money, unsurprisingly, and that he is motivated by the destruction of the coral. He has seen firsthand the damages that the coral did to Rubicon, the wars that it started, and obviously the cataclysm of the fires of Ibis, and to prevent a potential future catastrophe, he wants to annihilate the coral until there is no more. And that is the bad ending. You decide to go against Air's wishes to bring down the Xylem, end up confronting her in a final boss fight. The Xylem crashes into the coral siphoning structure, and there is a huge cataclysm. Coral is no more, and that is considered the bad ending. Now let's talk about the good ending that you will unlock either in your first or second playthrough. The good ending will have you go against Handler Walter's wishes and Cinder Carla and turn your back on them and joining Air into bringing down the Xylem ahead of time so that it doesn't crash with the coral siphoning structure. Now, in this case, the final boss will be Handler Walter, where he is heavily affected by possible coral surgery that was done by the Arquebus Corporation, and he tries to shut you down. And until the last minute, he really tries to terminate you. He says he needs to dispose of you, but then realizes that you are also following the request of a friend, and in the end, he dies with the Xylem. Now, this is supposed to be the good ending because Air has convinced you that humanity and Coral can live together, and in this case, Coral is not gone forever. Alea Lacta Est is the third and true ending of Armored Core 6, and Ratatoskr did a very good video explaining this ending, and it basically means that it's the point of no return. Throughout this third journey, you will be working in collaboration with Allmind, and this playthrough will be very different than the first two. And Allmind's purpose is to achieve coral release, a process that would put coral everywhere in space and spread it across the entire universe. Now, this might seem like a great solution to the issue of coral on Rubicon, but you will learn throughout this third playthrough that other people have already contemplated coral release, such as Father Dolmayan and O'Keefe, but they realize that it might be a liability to humanity and will try to stop you from accomplishing it. Of course, the playthrough will go on, and Father Dolmayan, O'Keefe, Cinder Carla, Handler Walter will all be crushed by the player and Allmind. And in the end, Allmind was just using you as a trigger. It was a ploy to get you at the right place and at the right time, but you will end up defeating Iguazu and Allmind and triggering the coral release. You will see a massive explosion and will wake up on what I believe is another planet, and the coral is all across the star and has taken control of several ACs. And it will end with a final sentence from Air saying that now we are everywhere. The screen will turn to black and you will hear the legendary words, activating combat mode. Now, even though this is the true ending, I certainly believe that this could be the worst possible outcome for humanity, and let me tell you why. What do we know about coral? We know that it's a conductor, an energy source, a narcotic, and it also contains the souls of the victims of the fires of Ibis, such as Air and her family. Now, these souls are in the coral, intertwined with it, and are sentient, although they cannot act unless they take control of ACs, like you see in the final boss when you are fighting air. Now, Coral has ravaged Rubicon 3, possibly taken hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives with the explosion, and even after the fires of Ibis, more lives were lost in the war that ensued with the corporations, because like Handler Walter said, where there is coral, there is blood. So having coral spread out across the universe could generate a huge amount of loss of life, as well as war, as there would be corporations hunting down every little piece they can find. Now, one thing to understand is that coral represents the future of technology, and it is a resource that is far beyond anything that is used at this point. But at what cost? If in real life, in our planet, we would find a resource such as coral at this point, it would be crucial to harvest it because we still haven't conquered the stars. We're still limited to just living on Earth, and a catastrophe could end us at any moment. We would have nowhere to go. But that is not the case in the world of Armored Core 6. The corporations, humanity, is already using space travel from planet to planet, and they are already establishing outposts as well as civilizations on these planets. So yes, of course, coral would be a huge next step, but at what cost? In my opinion, it would still be more of a liability to the human race. Of course, the corporations always want the next step, the best technology, but is it the right thing for humanity? That's the question. Now, we do have to consider one more thing. During Coral release, the coral got spread across the entire universe, as well as the disembodied souls that are within. And those souls took possession of ACs, as we see in the final scene. Now, what would an army of ACs that technically don't have a body could do? They could start wars in every single corner of the galaxy, and it would definitely be havoc for the planets involved. And that's why at the end it says activating combat mode. I think that's where they will take us with the potential sequel or DLC. Now, that's my reasoning for why the true ending might actually be the worst case scenario. In my opinion, I believe that the bad ending, where all the coral gets burned, is truly the good ending and the best possible outcome for humanity. However, there is a moral issue. By burning the coral, you are also burning all the souls that are disembodied and are carried through its waves. Now, that would pretty much equate to genocide if you see it that way, but there is the fact that these people are already dead. They don't have a body, and that might be cold and calculated the way Handler Walter sees it, but he doesn't care much for their lives because they already perished in the fires of Ibis. So there is a morality issue here, but it is a choice that Handler Walter has no problem making. With the Xylem completely annihilating all the coral on Rubicon, and Rubicon being a wasteland that is completely dead, it might sound like a bad thing, but possibly humanity could have just saved itself. Yes, it's a giant step back when you think of technology, but by doing so, they possibly prevented a disaster that could have been the demise of humanity.